The night airfield was not expecting anyone. No scheduled arrivals, no radio calls. Only darkness, broken by scattered runway lights and the low hum of generators. At exactly 2:17 hours, the radar screen changed. A single blip appeared, moving steadily, descending, perfectly aligned with the runway. The operator leaned closer. This was no glitch. He checked the flight board. Nothing was due. He keyed the microphone. "Unknown aircraft, this is base control. Identify yourself." Only static replied. Then came the sound. Low, rhythmic, unmistakable. No. Four propeller engines cutting cleanly through the night. The landing lights switched on. Someone had activated them. The aircraft emerged from the darkness, steady and disciplined. Flaps adjusted smoothly. Landing gear dropped at the precise altitude. No wobble, no urgency, no visible damage. The plane touched down flawlessly. It rolled forward, slowed, turned neatly onto the taxiway, and came to a gentle stop. The engines kept running. No radio call, no response. Then, one by one, the engines shut down. Silence followed. Not the silence of safety, but the silence of something unfinished. Ground crew approached cautiously. Rifles were raised, not expecting an enemy, but unsure of what else might be waiting. The aircraft radiated warmth. The engines were still hot. Fuel dripped slowly from a vent. A mechanic climbed the ladder and reached for the cockpit door. He hesitated, then opened it. The cockpit was empty. No pilot, no co-pilot, no navigator. Seats pushed back neatly, headsets hanging where hands had last placed them. Flight controls centered. Inside the fuselage, more emptiness. Every seat vacant. No blood, no damage, and no sign of struggle. Parachutes untouched. Personal belongings still stowed. Coffee cups half full. Maps laid out. The aircraft had landed, but the men were gone. By dawn, the airfield was sealed. Investigators arrived with cameras, notebooks, and quiet unease. This was not a crash. This was not even an emergency. This was a question without a beginning. The aircraft showed no battle damage, no bullet holes, no flak scars, no fire. The landing gear was intact, the tires unscuffed. Fuel tanks were half full, enough for hours of flight. Inside, everything worked. Navigation instruments were correctly set, compass readings stable. The autopilot was disengaged. That mattered. It meant someone flew the final approach manually. The radio system functioned normally. The oxygen system was intact. Masks unused. Cabin pressure logs showed no sudden loss. Medical inspections found no toxins, no carbon monoxide, no smoke residue, no unusual odors, no signs of panic. The flight log was recovered. The final entry ended mid-sentence. Crossing sector, visibility holding, crew reports. The pen still rested beside it. Someone had been interrupted. But by what? 8 men were listed on the manifest. Experienced, decorated, professionals. The pilot had logged thousands of hours. The navigator trusted the stars more than instruments. The engineer was known for grounding flights over minor issues. This was not a careless crew. Their mission had been routine. No combat engagement expected. Families were notified carefully, not with confirmation, but with uncertainty. Aircraft recovered, crew unaccounted for. Search operations began immediately. Aircraft flew grid patterns. Ships scanned the ocean. Ground teams searched coastlines and wilderness. Nothing, no bodies, no parachutes, no wreckage. Weeks passed, then months. One investigator wrote privately, "If the plane had crashed, we would mourn. If it had vanished, we would assume destruction, but it returned. And that means something let it come back." The first explanation was hypoxia, oxygen deprivation, aviation's oldest enemy. At altitude, judgment fades quietly. Pilots feel calm moments before unconsciousness, but hypoxia leaves bodies behind, slumped in seats, hands frozen on controls. This cockpit was empty, and hypoxia does not perform perfect landings. The oxygen system was functional. Masks untouched, no alarms triggered. Carbon monoxide poisoning was considered. Tests showed none. Toxic cargo was ruled out. The cargo bay was sealed and undisturbed. Every theory explained death. None explained disappearance. When the body offered no answers, investigators turned to psychology. War fractures the mind. Long missions, constant noise, fear without release. A psychologist proposed mass dissociation, a shared psychological break, hallucinations, false certainty. Pilots had followed phantom runways before. Crews had obeyed commands never given. Could all 8 men have believed, together, that they were meant to leave the aircraft? But hallucinations cause chaos. Here, everything was orderly. Seats were pushed back calmly. Equipment was stowed. No signs of argument. If the crew left willingly, they did so believing they were following orders. One investigator wrote, "The terrifying possibility is not panic. It's obedience to something that wasn't real." That note never entered the official file. 3 weeks after the landing, the investigation changed. Quietly, documents were restricted, radar logs removed, witness interviews shortened, folders stamped "restricted" by command order. The official explanation followed: probable crew loss due to unknown in-flight emergency. Unknown. Families were told no further updates would come. Journalists were denied access. Personnel were reassigned. The aircraft was dismantled, not scrapped, separated. Cockpit one direction, fuselage another. Instruments shipped to restricted facilities. The logbook vanished. A partially redacted memo later revealed one surviving sentence: crew absence cannot be explained through conventional physiological failure. That admission should not exist, but it did. Years passed, files declassified, but gaps remained. Serial numbers without outcomes, crew rosters without fates. A historian noticed the aircraft's serial number appearing years later in maintenance records. The plane had been studied, not forgotten. Former personnel spoke quietly. A radar operator tracked the aircraft longer than officially recorded. A ground crewman said the cabin felt too cold. A clerk removed the crew's names from a ledger by order. None proved anything. Together they suggested containment, not resolution. Other cases emerged. Different decades, different countries. Same silence. Aircraft found intact, fuel remaining. No distress calls and no crews. Machines completing their tasks. Humans missing entirely. An intelligence analyst wrote privately, "In every case, the aircraft arrives, only the people do not. Automation advanced, fail-safes multiplied. Machines learned to function without us." But this story asked a darker question. What happens when humans are removed completely? There is no memorial, no wreckage, no grave, only absence. One widow wrote, "If he died, I could mourn him. But he vanished." And the world pretends that's acceptable. The engines were warm, the fuel was sufficient, the landing was flawless, which means someone was there until very near the end. And then something intervened. Biological, psychological, environmental, or something still unnamed. The aircraft obeyed physics. Humans did not. If a plane can return without its crew, if men can vanish without violence, then safety is incomplete, because the greatest danger may not be failure, but erasure. The plane landed, the mystery did not. And somewhere between takeoff and touchdown, a question still circles in the dark. If it happened once, why wouldn't it happen again?